What is up, my ninjas? I am Strydent, and welcome to another video. Finally, we're back in the cave. I'm doing a sit down with you guys because I've picked up a lot of stuff. Work has been really busy. Oh, we've had a lot of events at work, and I have not had a lot of free time to kind of sit down and talk with you guys about some of the figures that I picked up. So I figured, finally, we're here, so I'm going to do that. So, welcome to my sit-down special. So I'm just gonna briefly, in a chill format, for those of you who've never done this with me before, talk about a bunch of figures that I picked up. Most of you have probably seen reviews of all this stuff before, so I'm just gonna kind of give my thoughts on some stuff. You'll see amongst all of this some figures that I just have up here that I've already talked about that are older, but they're kind of related to other figures that you see out here. For instance, like the older Man-at-Arms. This figure is obviously related to this figure because this is the newer Man-at-Arms, and I'll, kind of compare them. And, there's some others out there, like over here we've got, over here we've got the Question with the Huntress, because if you know, you know. And then we've got Robin, the Young Justice version, which I use as Jason Todd next to the Signal. That's Duke Thomas. And I just wanted to have him out there so you could kind of see a contrast that even though it's two different shows and two different companies, there's a very similar design language going on with these guys. If you're looking at the lines, and you're looking at like the little shapes that are on this figure, so you can tell it's Batman's tech and it works. You know what I'm saying? But I want to talk first. I guess I'll start off with Batman stuff because, come on now, I've got a Michael Keaton figure that is actually not garbage. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually fucking phenomenal. So I'm gonna talk about him real quick. I'm actually really excited to talk about this guy because they did a lot of things right with him, starting with the fucking cloth cape. Now, a lot of people have talked about cloth capes and, the good and the bad, and they have all these weird preferences and shit, but I mean, look at that shit. Come on, stay clear. Don't fuck with me. There you go. Look at this. And it's actually like a decent material. I mean, it is kind of, you can see through it if I angle it correctly. Unlike my capes, you can't see through them, like my custom capes. But I might put a custom cape on him. I actually have one that I just got, and I hit up GPS lot. But I mean, look at this guy. They did a great job. And the suit looks better on this body than it looked on Keaton in the film. Came with a decent amount of accessories. His head moves with no problem because, they fixed the issues that the other Batsuit had. It looked weird sometimes in the film, but overall it looked pretty damn good. That symbol, the insignia, looks right. It's like, yes, thank you. And it's textured. I love it. I love it. And that definitely looks like Keaton. If you couldn't see it before, you're going to see it now. I mean, look at it. I mean, he obviously looks older, but it looks like Keaton. The only thing I don't like is these bulbs on the top. I wanted the points to be extremely pointy, but I'm not going to fuck with it. It's pretty nice. They're straight, actually, which has been a problem with the Batman figures I've been picking up in the past. If they weren't from Mezco, then the horns weren't always straight. And some of the McFarlane ones managed to get bent in the, which sounds fucked up, get bent. But I kind of wanted them to have like a Robin with him, or an excuse or a reason for why Robin's not there. Have Robin or Nightwing. But the version of Earth 89 or whatever that Earth was, it's not actually Earth 89. It's a similar universe to it. Because you notice he cleaned up Gotham, which, when does that happen? I mean, you've had allusions to it, but it's always at the expense of people's like freedom or something, like we saw in Kingdom Come, or it's a dream like we saw in that old episode of, or issue of Justice League of America with the key, when he had everybody in like stasis and they were all like kind of living out their perfect life scenario. I don't know what I was about to say. Initiative? I don't know what the hell was about to come out. I'm old. Shit happens. I feel old sometimes and it happens. But yeah, this figure did it for me. A figure that comes from this movie, because I only got, who did I only get? I think I only got these two. And that's who we're looking at right here. So I'm going to move Batman over here, so you know I already looked at him. Oh, I probably could talk about some of his accessories, but he comes with, you know, a silver version of his classic Batarang, and he comes with two holding things hands. Oh, he also comes with a silver version of the classic grapnel gun, and I do have all that stuff right here. So as you can see, we've got like, this is one of the holding things hands. And I always put one fist and one fist and then one holding things hand on them. So here's the other fist. And yes, Zorpox, my skin is rough on my hands. I've been working since I was 14 years old, so yep. I'm no stranger to some hard work. And then on top of it, I've always got a pencil in my hands or some kind of drawing you know, utensil. So yeah, it kind of helps with that roughness. Here's the grapnel gun. It's kind of nice. It doesn't look as nice as the neck. Hey, stop that. It doesn't look as nice as the neck of one. Here's the other side. But it looks good. And then here's the silver Batarang. He doesn't come with folded ones. Neither did the one from Mezco, so you know I don't have any complaints about that. But it's pretty cool that they went ahead and did that. One detail about the figure that I like and I'm actually impressed about is that on the back he's got pockets, so he's still got capsules like he's always had. I also like that this is black. But I wish they had at least yellow on the buckle or like yellow somewhere on here. I know that it's in the movie they're silver. There's like silver caps, black. You could tell the capsules fit in the belt. But I like the fact that you've got these here for like things that he needs to carry, larger things. I still hate this. There's no reason for this to look like that. You could have made it just a line that comes down here and then made this line part of his chest armor instead of having this big clavicle bullshit going on over here. I'm not a fan of that. Also, because then you lose the design element right here, this scalloped design. It disappears into the chest, and I don't like that. I've drawn it better. You can go on my ArtStation page, and you'll see different versions of Batman that I've done over the years. And if you go on my old DeviantArt page, you'll see sketches I've done for other stuff as well as like finished drawings. There's so many better ways to handle that. I don't know. I didn't like that. But everything else is kind of cool. The suit grew on me because many aspects of it are a cross between Bale's suit and Keaton's Returns suit. But I like it. He finally has his own boots. They're not Nikes. You know what I mean? Like, they actually gave him full-on custom boots. So, yeah, I like that. The other character, though, that we need to talk about here, in my opinion, she kind of stole the show, is Sasha Calle as Supergirl. This figure is not as bad as people made it out. I saw pictures, like, I was kind of like, ugh, in some of these pictures. But, like, when you look at this face, it's not that bad. It looks like the actress. The skin tone is weird, but the weirdest part for me is the hair. She had black hair in the movie, and they did this weird brown shit with streaks, like they just didn't want to go all black. And I'm like, just go with it. But the suit is pretty dope. I love the lines of the suit. The paint job is kind of rough. I don't know if it's the paint or if it's flash from the the mold, but in some areas it's kind of rough. Like look at the shoulder over there. It's kind of rough. But overall, I love the details of this suit. I love how she looks with in comparison to because it's all her whole shtick, her design is a throwback to Man of Steel, and she looks good. It looks legit. I love how the muscles pop through the suit. It looks really good. So I'm pretty impressed with what they did here. They did a great job. While we're on Batman stuff, I'm going to just go over some of the other things that I got. She also came with, as well as having fist hands, she came with open hands for her to fly with, And they're pretty well done. It's funny because, McFarlane is going to do a good job when it comes to accessories for some of these figures. So it's almost like no point in even talking about them because you just know that things are going to work well because McFarlane did it, McFarlane doesn't really fuck around when it comes to a lot of stuff. But okay, so here's a Batman figure that I want to talk about that kind of frustrates me. And that is none other than the Huntress from Mafex. Now, Mafex has garnered an audience with a lot of really hardcore fanboys just slobbing the knob, dick riding, fucking just and it's frustrating. Now, this figure looks pretty awesome from head to toe, She has good articulation for the most part, but she's missing basic things, As usual, she can't T-pose very well. That's as far up as you're going to get her arms. Even if you force it, that's as far up as they're going to go, which isn't bad, but it should be better. If I can get $20 figures that can do this, there's no reason why a Mafex can't. My big issues with her were her hands. If you look at the joint in her hands, and I'll zoom in, I replaced that joint because the joint that she had, the hands just fell off. They would just fall off the peg. So what I did, hey, clear up, stop playing with me. What I did was I took a Joy Toy replacement wrist joint. It may be a foot. I think it's a wrist though. I'm pretty sure it's a wrist. And I popped out those, the joints on there, and I put that. Oh, I'm sorry, losing track of where I'm at. So I put that in there instead, and as you can see, it makes it. There's a lip there, so when you put that lip inside the recess, it actually holds, and then you don't end up with the bullshit of having her hands just pop off while you're trying to make her do stuff. Because what I found was when I was posing her, which I'm gonna do while I'm talking to you guys, so you can see some of what I was complaining about or what was frustrating me with this figure. While I was posing her, sorry for that, I had to look on my desk, which is right next to me, for her staff. So while I was posing her with her staff, her hands kept coming off. So what I started to do was I was contemplating if I should glue them in or if I should, what should I do to keep these, these hands on while I'm trying to pose her. But as you can see, I'm moving her arms around and the hands aren't coming off. Another thing that's an issue, you see how fast I did that? Another thing that's an issue with this figure is the cape. I'm sick and tired of $100 plus figures having these beautiful, well done, soft good capes that have a wire in them, and then they fuck up the wire. So instead of the wire going all the way through this, which I think there may be a wire in here, it breaks right there, as in it's not connected, and then it's floppy right down here. So if you wanted the cape to flow up like this, it won't do it because there's nothing anchoring the cape this wire directly to where the cape itself goes around the collar of her costume. So instead, you have to find a point that you can kind of bend this at, and then you fake it by having it rest where you want it to rest. So it's not natural enough. I mean, like, for people who don't know any better, that looks good enough. You know what I'm saying? But just imagine I went and got a cape from GPS Slot. I've been doing this for a while. Once I stopped making capes, I started buying them from GPS Lot. So I'm going to show you this one that I got from them on my Hush Batman. Look at how it's sitting up at the collar. You know what I'm saying? Why can't they do that with the ones we paid $100 for? I mean, granted, that cape was like $19.99 or something like that, or $18.99, I think, maybe $20. But like, this figure was $100. So, you know, a $20 figure with almost a $20 cape, it's $40, and it's done better than this? That doesn't make any sense. So I wasn't happy with that. Then another thing was, besides this issue with her cape, she comes with an extra head, but she didn't come with her crossbow. Many of us have, like, you know, alternative crossbows for her to use because we have other characters who came with crossbows, like Scarlet, or, you know, Fortnite figures or something. So I didn't really sweat it because I actually had a crossbow from one of my other Huntress figures, and she kind of has like a hand specific for holding something with a gun, right? You'd think she could hold like some kind of gun. It doesn't hold things very well. Zoom in, please. It doesn't hold things very well. And like I said, she didn't come with one. She didn't come with a and I think that's the only hand. She has one hand. Yeah, she has one hand like that, and then she has one open hand like this. And she did not come with you know, a pistol or anything, or what is the thing called? A crossbow. I'm like, what the fuck, guys? Like, you're supposed to be able to what the fuck, bro? You're supposed to, these figures being that expensive, there's kind of a level of awareness that the company should have about these characters if they're going to, you know, undertake making those characters. If you're not going to take the time to figure out who the characters are, you know, and give them what the weapons they're supposed to have, then why even bother undertaking the character? But I do think I know the answer, and you guys know the answer too. So I'm not even going to go into that. But if you have the crossbow from the movie version of Scarlet from Snake Eyes, then you could use this, and it kind of does the job. It's not bad, but it doesn't hold in there very well, as you can see. Now I gotta go into the rug of holding and try to find where that fell, which is what always happens when things fall down. Oh, I found it. First try. God damn, I'm good. I'm getting better, I should say. But her accessories are pretty nice. She scales really well with your old DCUC stuff. And considering I've never had another like a posable Huntress, I'm pretty happy with this one. I just wish she was, you know, kind of a more well thought out, well executed figure. But you see how Batman dwarfs her. Like, she is he is humongous compared to her. And he should be just a little taller. He should be about the size he is. Now, if you have your DCUC version, if you got the DCUC version, this is actually the Batman Unlimited version with my custom cape. And he's got, ooh, that was different. Apparently he hasn't been moved in a long time, and his legs this is one of the reasons why I'm happy for having McFarlane figures take over, McFarlane Toys take over the DC stuff. Some of my DC figures are starting to fall apart just standing in my case. Like, look at this shit. I moved him just a minute ago. You see that? The glue or whatever the fusing that they did, the sonic weld or sonic fusion, whatever you call it, that they did, it's coming loose. So like, you know, things are coming off. Nothing's broken. Like all the pegs are there, but it's just not, you know, it's not holding like it once did. So, you know, luckily I can still do everything with him, you know. He's still stiff at the legs and stuff. He's not broken, but I got to re-glue that since it's coming loose. But, you know, thankfully this guy has been a shelf. Well, I played with him for a lot back in the day. And then he became a shelf warmer for me because he's in the Batman display. But he became a shelf warmer when I got this guy, who is probably the quintessential best Batman figure out there. But now McFarlane has made so many of them. I still say this one is the best, but, you know, I have a love-hate situation with Mezco. I kind of hate him now. So even though they've done so many amazing things with these figures, I can't spend any more money on their stuff. Their customer service sucks ass through a straw. Their practices make no sense, and they keep on kind of what they did with that Keaton Bats figure is just like, it's a fucking violation. So yeah, I'm like, nope, I'm done. But this right here, this Batman figure, this Huntress fits, or this Batman fits with this aesthetic. This fits with the Jim Lee aesthetic perfectly. I kind of wish she fit better with, I wish this figure here, which actually has the Jim Lee face. I'll get up on that so you can see it. Come on, close, and there you go. Stop looking at Casey. I wish this was the figure that matched the aesthetic, and well, not matched the aesthetic. Great. I wish he was the right size. Like if he wasn't, there's so a level of quality here that apparently the police were chasing somebody outside. But anyway, there's a level of quality with this type of Batman that kind of surpasses what we're used to, because, you know, these materials are really well chosen, and this cape, man, it's beautiful. I wish that all the capes being made, the custom capes, were made of this material. Even her her purple cape, I wish it was made of this same material here. It's like a nylon kind of weave. There's like nylon on one side, and then like, I don't know, it's got a different material on this side, but it's got a shine to it, and then it's got the kind of material feel to it, and it just looks great. But anyway, that's usually my go-to Batman if I'm not using McFarlane stuff. These days I use McFarlane stuff a lot, so you know, she's just gonna be really short. They don't all have to be 6-footers and, you know, fucking godly built. Some of them can be short, because I'll be real with you, a lot of the chicks that I've dated that had you know, like god level builds, they were short girls. So, you know, kind of looks nice. She's athletic. She's not super tall. She's not super short, but she's shorter than the others, you know, like look at her compared to Duke, who's going to be the next guy we talk about. Like, Duke's pretty damn tall. Like, he looks down at her, you know, almost like he's older. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, maybe in this universe he is older than she is, you know. Here she is with Babs, Batgirl, one of my favorite characters of all time. I love Batgirl, and this is my favorite suit that isn't the Arkham Knight version, the Matter of Family costume that she had on. But you see, they're relatively the same size. I mean, she's clearly shorter. I kind of prefer for Babs to be a little bit taller, but at the time, in my DC-UC collection, she was the smallest next to Robin, so it kind of fit. And then here is the McFarlane version, who is drastically taller than Huntress. Which, I mean, the girls come in different shapes and sizes, so it can work, you know. And then lastly, just for shits and giggles, here is the Jim Lee Hush DC Direct Huntress. And as you can see, they got all the details except for the things hanging, these little, I don't know what they are. look here. Let's look up close. You see those little, I don't know, bombs of some sort? Or maybe those are bolts that, you know, go into the bolt gun. This one literally came with the bolt gun attached to her hand. It's like, come on, guys. That's like one of her defining fucking features, and you just left that shit out. But, you know, it's a good look. The figure looks good. I was always sad about the fact that I can't pose this figure, you know, but she looks good. The aesthetics are there. The sculpt is there. The head sculpt is there. I think the head sculpt is better on this one than the Mafex. You're going to start noticing with Mafex that they get an approximation of these specific artist styles, but they miss very specific details about the different artist styles. I just saw the one from the Batman, the Nightfall Batman, and I was kind of laughing at their attempt at Kelly Jones with that weird tattered looking cape that they gave him and then the long horns. And there's going to be a whole bunch of people saying how amazing it looks and how accurate. It's not accurate. It's not even close. You know what I mean? But, you know, people are going to say what they're going to say. So, whatever. But anyway, Huntress is kind of a meh, you know. She's not $100 worth of a figure. Duke Thomas. Here's a figure that I didn't even know I needed or wanted. But in talking with ODCdatsme, I was like, let me check him out. I was actually talking to him and Agent O. And Agent O was telling me about the character, the Signal, because he has light powers. And I was looking at the costume and I'm like, you know what? I kind of like this costume. So let me get one of these guys and put him in my universe, because I like the Bat family in general, and I kind of want to have more variety. And potentially, I kind of feel like it would be really cool if Duke was some Batman's Robin. You get what I'm saying? Like a sidekick or partner to a version of Batman somewhere. Potentially, maybe even the partner for Jace Fox, or the partner to, you know, Keaton in his universe, this version of Keaton that we were just introduced to in Flashpoint, or in The Flash, you know, because they do look aesthetically, you know, like I was saying before, they do look like they could fit in that world. And if you know the story about the scripts, the various scripts of Batman Returns and Batman Forever and all that shit, we almost got Marlon Wayans as Robin, and early on we almost got Eddie Murphy as Robin, and that would have been really weird because he was much older, so they would have had to skew, you know, the character older. I always imagined Tim Drake being the Black Robin. So I remember years ago I did a sketch for it was at a convention of a Robin, a Tim Drake with dreadlocks, like long dreads, and he's still wearing pretty much the Robin suit. I'll put the picture up while we're talking about it, but I always thought that would be cool, you know, because you live in a big ass city and none of your Robins are brown. Like, what the fuck? Like, you just have a type. You only adopt these types. So like I think someone else figured that out too and was like, we got to fix that. Let's add some, you know, variety in there. And you ended up with him, and then you ended up with Damian later on. So, but I like this figure a lot. I was surprised at a couple things. The first big thing that surprised me was his the suit is a little different from what he wore in the comics. It's like this is a more recent suit, whereas the suit in the card that they gave you with the figure shows a completely different suit. So I'm kind of like, guys, like you missed some things, but you can see that some of the details are still there, you know? So it's not too bad. His posability is exactly like most of the other McFarlane figures. You know, he's got enough room to put his arms in front of him. So if you have the his weapons in his hands, which are pretty nice, they look like climbing. What do they call those things? I guess they're like commas or tomahawks or something, but they look like the climbing gear. Agent O was telling me he couldn't unsee it once he saw it. It does look like climbing gear. But, you know, the idea is if you put them, you know, back to back, then you have a bat symbol, or relatively close to one another. You end up with a bat symbol. See that? Bat symbol. So yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. He looks pretty cool. Looks pretty damn serious. He looks like he would really kick some ass. In some ways, he looks like an alternate universe Phoenix Jones if you actually put some thought into your fucking costume. But he looks good. You know, I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised with this figure, and the you know, the way that he articulates and stuff. Because sometimes, you know, McFarlane figures, you look at the articulation and you're like, shit, this articulation looks dope. But then you look at like where the points are and how the points work, and they don't necessarily work as well. Whereas with this one, he has the newer ankles. He has the same thing with the wrists, the newer wrists, and it looks good. You know, it looks real good. He looks like he would fuck you up, and he looks like it wouldn't be very easy to shoot him. He's got like armor throughout, so if you shot at him, a stray bullet wouldn't take this guy out. And I love the helmet. The helmet is probably my favorite part. It looks so good. So yeah, he's fun. I'm gonna find ways to use him more often and have him be like, you know, the next in line from you know, from Robin, so that he'll often show up for things that perhaps Batman himself might be too busy to do because he's busy doing other stuff. And then you know, have some team ups with him and Nightwing. Strangely enough, that Nightwing from Gotham Knights, that terrible game, I got that whole line with the exception of Batgirl. I hate that design. And I think Nightwing, he grew on me. At first, I hated it. I was like, why's he got all these pockets and that big-ass jacket and shit, you know? And then, you know, the more I look at him, the more I play around with him, the more I'm like, you know what? Homeboy actually looks good. And I think this crew right here, actually, let me put him in the middle. Let's make this look a little bit better. This crew right here, or maybe we do it like this. Let's put him over here, and we put Nightwing in the middle behind everybody because he's the prodigal son, you know? Put him like that. That just looks good to me. So you could have the 5 of them patrolling all over Gotham, you know, when Batman himself can't be there. And then, you know, we got Batman looking all insanely majestic and shit. Although, if they're going to look like this, I don't use this Batman. I use either, actually, I'll show you which one I use. I use this Batman, the Bermejo style Batman. This is my favorite Batman figure that McFarlane has made so far. I just love the armor, and I love that fucking expression. He looks so over it. He looks like this job is getting to me. He looks like the epitome. He's like the personification of, you know, fuck your couch. Like, that's what he looks like. Fuck your couch. He's like Superman. Fuck your couch. Like, oh, you don't like when I say that? Fuck your couch, bitch. Biatch. Look at how pissed off he looks. Look at him. Really? Really? Fuck you. Like, he just looks like... he just looks so pissed. He looks like the type of Batman that, you know, season 4, Batman the Animated Series, that was like slapping people and shit, you know? Like, he looks like he would do that. And so, you know, if you're going to have the whole squad, I feel like that does it right there. That's the whole squad. That does Batman justice. That's what he would, you know, that's the way he would want it. You know what I'm saying? And it rounds out everything. You got a Robin, you got a Nightwing. Well, you got 3 Robins. You got Batgirl, and you got the Signal. It works. It works. So, yeah, that's my my Batman stuff. The Signal is a really awesome figure. I'm glad that they did what they did with him. He looks great with the rest of the team. He just fits. And it's weird too because for a newer character, he seems really well thought out because Duke's been around for a little while. If you remember, several years ago, I did a video about We Are Robin, and I got a lot of backlash, and there was just a lot of backlash in general for that particular book, which is not an amazing book, don't get me wrong, but it had some good ideas in there that, you know, one of which turned into him, you know, and he's pretty decent, well thought out character that doesn't seem to get a ton of usage, but, you know, we could see him in a future Arkham style game or something, you know what I mean? But I like him, and I think he's cool. His power set is cool. Having control over light and the various aspects of the spectrum of light is pretty cool. I dig it. I dig him. Awesome figure. Moving right along. Get her out of here. Let's get him out of here. Let's talk about this bad boy right here. So, Hush Batman with actually I had the cape doing this before, so it looked more like the Akira slide, you know. Actually my camera's not in the right place, so let me do that from a better angle so it looks cooler. So it's like, sorry Spidey. And yeah, this figure is phenomenal. So first we're going to talk about the bike real quick. That bike is really well done. It looks good. It's accurate to what we saw on screen. It's sturdy. It's just expensive for what it does. It doesn't really do very much of anything. It doesn't have a bunch of like special abilities. And I've noticed this lately with McFarlane, and it's kind of my axe to grind with McFarlane toys, is that a lot of the figures and vehicles and stuff, they don't do anything. Like if you watch the movie, there's like all these little gadgets and stuff. Like there's a pop-up area up here that these two vents kind of pop up to kind of guard, you know, shield Batman from bullet fire. There's a grapnel gun that kind of comes out of here. Or wait, no, there's no grapnel gun on this. That's the other one. That's the, what is he called? White Knight. But you've got the guns. These guns don't do anything. They need to move a little bit. I don't know if they're supposed to, if they can slide. I couldn't get them to move, and I didn't see anybody else making them move, so I'm under the impression that those guns don't do anything. There was something else that it did. I can't remember. I can't remember if it was a suspension thing. I don't know. There's a lot of that movie that's kind of like a fever dream for me. So I just, you know. But it doesn't do very much. So this is a clearance item. If you can get this on clearance, get it. It's well worth it because, like I said, it doesn't do very much. But it fits the part. It plays the part of a futuristic looking mean ass bat cycle for Batman. And I like it. I kind of wish he was using the suit from Justice League, the tactical suit from Justice League, because that would make more sense. You know, if we're being realistic, if we're using the logic of the films, that would be the way to go. But, you know, they chose not to do that. But in my universe, if I'm going to use blue and gray, if we're going to a universe where the blue and gray Batman is there, then this would be the blue and gray Batman. I'm using the Hush Batman because I liked Hush a lot, and I don't really like blue and gray on Batman. And also, if you ever pay attention, I don't know why this is such a debate amongst quote-unquote fans. They always say shit like, no, the suit is supposed to be blue and gray. No, in the comic books in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s, it was definitely blue and gray. But as time went on, it was black with blue highlights. And a lot of people, especially Jim Lee, he did not draw him with just this weird turquoise kind of bluish color on his, you know, on his costume. Yet, that is the color that's stuck when it comes to him. So I'm not a fan of that. And I wish they would stop doing that. But this is supposed to be the Superman that goes opposite the the Batman that goes opposite the Hush Superman. And he's a good looking figure. I mean, from head to toe, they got the look of this guy really on point. I mean, he's huge. And they use the right kind of, like the grays match. I just don't, the blue is weird, you know? I mean, it's accurate for the most part. And I managed to find a custom cape that does him justice. Because a lot of times, that's the problem that I run into, is that these custom capes suck ass, you know? And, or like you can't get the exact colors that you need. And I apologize for all the shaking. Right off the bat, though, my complaint are these hands. These holding things hands suck because they are, number one, this is that one that the Superman figures all seem to come with, that arthritis having hand. It looks good for, like, you know, poses when he's jumping or something, or, you know, it looks good for when you have him holding a weapon of some sort, like his grapnel gun and shit. It works really decently with that. And I actually have one here. I love the Arkham grapnel gun, so I have like 4 or 5 of those things, so I use them for like just about all my Batman figures. It's one of those form and function things, you know? It looks good, it does the job, and I don't really have complaints, you know, about the aesthetic. I mean, it is a gun. That's probably the only complaint, you know, as a Batman, for a guy who has trauma keyed to guns, he uses a lot of guns, but, you know, it is what it is. But, like, holding this gun, this grapnel gun, it doesn't look bad. You know what I mean? It looks par for the course. It looks like this is something Batman would actually utilize, you know? Let me look up at his hands, but you see that? You see that? It looks good. But, God, and with those shadows, the light behind him and shit, yeah, it looks good. That looks really good. It's funny when you get excited about shit you did on purpose. Like, I did that shit on purpose. I was lighting these guys, and I was like, how can I light them so that it looks dramatic? And then I was like, you know what? I'll move forward, have the lighting behind him. I'll have twice the lighting on the left side, or the right-hand side, I'm sorry. And then, you know, have just this one light source on the right-hand side. But anyway, it looks good for that, kinda. Let me see what he looks like when he's pointing that, because I didn't use this hand because it doesn't grip things very well, and it just doesn't look natural. That's my gripe with it. So if he's holding, yeah, it doesn't look natural, and he doesn't hold, like, he doesn't put his hand or his fingers where the trigger should be. You really have to fudge it, and I'm not a fan of that. Now, if you have the Batarang he came with, it kind of works better. It's not the greatest, but it works a little bit better. Just a little bit. I don't think it's great. So I hate that. But what I hate the most is that these hands are not even gloved hands. Oh, this is the other hand. And it actually, this hand holds things with no problem. I have no issues with him holding stuff. But it's not the best. It is not the best. This hand actually holds the grapnel gun with less problems. You know, it's really tight, and he has a finger that sticks out farther than the others, so it looks like he's pulling a trigger or something. But in a second, I'll show you why it doesn't work for me. And it's something I hate about McFarlane's their shtick these days, you know, and I wish they would stop, because what they were doing before was they would give you hands that were specific to the figure. Now what they're doing is they're reusing hands from other figures just to do the job that's necessary for whatever the particular figure needs. So if they need holding things hands, they just put those hands in there. And I don't dig that. But here's that other hand holding the grapnel gun. And I'm not a fan of necessarily of how that whole thing looks. You see what I'm saying? Like it holds things a little too high. It's not, the grip itself is not like the best. It's not like when you have the Mezco figures and you put a grapnel gun in their hands, you know what I mean? And they just grip the shit out of it and it looks good. It's more of a, I don't know, it's just more of a, you know, meh. That's the best way to put it. It's like a meh. And when you put him on the bike, you notice that like this side grips really hard, but this side does not grip very well at all. It looks cool for him kind of like grabbing the brake, you know, but you can find ways to make it work. But what I was getting at though with the hands is that these hands all come from other ungloved figures. The other hands he has, which are the fist hands, they actually come from the figure that much of the, you know, of this figure is uses the base from, and that's the what was he called? The Three Jokers Batman. And you can tell because he literally has the Three Jokers Batman torso with all the wrinkles and shit in there. You can kind of see it. I'll zoom in a little so you can see it more. See that? That's from the Three Jokers. These gloves come from that too. And the gloves are nice. They look good. I love the fact that they have the little, you know, what do they call that? The Nomex shielding or whatever on his, or Kevlar shielding on his knuckles, the back of his hand. And then on top of that, they drew on or painted on the, or sculpted the kryptonite ring on his fist. Because again, Hush Batman, there's that specific scene where he fights Superman and he punches the shit out of him. But just for shits and giggles, you can see them side by side, and you can see that they have the same, some of the same parts. Definitely the same fist hand, and definitely the arms are very similar. The torso is the same. The legs are the same, the upper legs to the knee, and then the boots are different, as you can see. So, you know, they did some things that I like, and then they did some things I don't like. But look at the way the shadows fall on this guy. He's so accurate, it kind of puts the Mafex version to shame. Like, the face on this guy looks so much like what Jim Lee would have done, you know? Like, the way Jim Lee did it. I mean, and look at that with the lightings on both sides. It's kind of crazy how much like Jim Lee's artwork that figure actually looks, you know, even his stature, it looks the part. So like, you know, for if you're looking for a really good Batman and say you don't have a blue and gray Batman, this one would actually do the job. I'm not a big fan of the blue and gray suit, but Jim Lee's art is a big influence on my own art. So having him in blue and gray in the Hush style with the pockets instead of the capsules, and the big old bat symbol, the Arkham style bat symbol on his chest, I really like that. So I'm game for that. So yeah, I dig it. I'm glad I got it. And I think many of you, I mean, how many of us are not Batman fans? You know, I've made jokes about this, but like, Batman is always that guy who everybody likes Batman. Everybody at least likes one version of Batman, and most people like the animated series. Most people who read Hush appreciated the what would you call that, fanboying kind of nature of it, where they give you something to kind of geek out over. So I see no reason why you wouldn't get, you know, another Batman, especially if it's the one from Hush. So, you know, think about it. If you see him, he's very hard to come by for some odd reason, but it doesn't surprise me. He's not a gold label figure from what I remember. I think he's just a standard release. I got him at Walmart. I actually got him on sale, strangely enough. I didn't even know there was a damn sale, and I ended up getting him for like $10. So I'm pretty happy with that. You know, $10, you can't go wrong, and it's a kind of a hard to find figure. I've looked at him for other people, trying to get one for him, and then I noticed like, holy shit, this figure is going for an arm and a damn leg. and it doesn't need to. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, be careful with the prices, but you might be able to you know, get a good deal on him or something, you know. But that's it for this figure. Let's move on. Okay, while we're still talking about McFarlane stuff, let's move over to the Page Punchers. Actually, you know what? Before I move over to Page Punchers, I talked about Shazam in the previous sit-down thing we did. So let's talk about this Wonder Woman real quick. This Wonder Woman is really dope because a lot of the things that were lacking from previous releases, mainly the fucked up legs, they fixed them. She's got like real, like, track star legs, you know? And I got the tiara to stay on by pulling the hair aside, pushing the tiara in there, and I cut off the edges and then pushed the tiara in between her hair. So if you get up close, you can kind of see, I don't know if you can really see it. Yeah, you can see it there. Let's see, right there. You can see the paint along the sides, but because it's dark, it just mixes in with the hair, so you don't really notice, you know what I'm saying? So I suggest that's what you guys do. I saw even the fucking solicits from McFarlane. It's like they couldn't get this shit to stay on. So they all posed her. She looked kind of cool, but they had her without her fucking tiara. I was like, what is going on with this figure? I couldn't, at first, I couldn't put my finger on what was off. And this actually is pretty nice because this is what she looked like in The Flash. And this is what she looked like in Shazam, which is pretty dope. So yeah, if you want one that fits in with your Justice League and stuff and who's, you know, taller and can work with your comics or your movies, because as you can see, she looks pretty decent standing alongside this hulking ass Batman. It's one of the issues I have with this figure is that he's too fucking ginormous, man. And look at that. I mean, it almost looks right. But like when you see him standing next to some of the other characters that are wearing suits and stuff, it's like, God damn, he's huge. And I've seen people chop his lower legs down so that he comes down a little bit. But anyway, the point is she looks good in whatever the setup may be. This is a wonderful design, you know, props to the costume designer for this because it captures all the Wonder Woman-ness. I love the fact that they made the boots have gold stripe going down them to continue the gold from the knee pads instead of silver or white. And I love that the only silver is in her gauntlets or her bracelets. But yeah, she's dope. I mean, she doesn't have the 100% greatest head movement, but she has more head movement than the figure arts though, which is strange because the figure arts, you move her too much and then part of her head comes off or the hair comes off or something. This one, you can move her, she can look all the way down, and then she has some room back there in her hair so that you can have her look up, and then with her torso you really get that up looking up thing, but you can't really get her looking up when she's flying because the head only moves but so far. I guess you can move the torso a little bit more, you know, so that she can fly, but still she's mostly looking down. So yeah, all in all, she's pretty good. She comes with a extra elongated lasso, and she pretty much looks the part, you know. These figures from the Snyderverse, for a lot of us, are just going to fill that shelf, because I know most of us DC fans, we have a Snyderverse shelf, and that's where she's going to go to live out her days. So, you know, if that's what you're looking for, there's a good one to get. I'm going to try to get the one, you know, singular McFarlane figures out of the way for the most part for the DC stuff, and then I'll go into the Page Punchers. I got one more single figure to go into. This one kind of just popped up one day and I was like, oh shit, I've never had him. Superboy. This is the Con L version, I think it is, right? Con L from the 90s. I love this figure, but there's aspects of him that I don't like. I would have preferred for him to have the shades. I would have preferred for his face to look younger. He looks so old. I mean, it kind of fits if he's an older clone, you know what I mean? If this version is supposed to be a version of him as a slightly older Superman. And he does look the part. You can tell that's Superman's face, you know? I like the fact that, there we go. It's a nice face. He's smiling, unlike many of the Superman figures that we get. I like the fact that he's kind of skinny. But I like the coloring of that suit. The coloring looks really good. And, you know, it's weird, though, because he's not 100% Superman, like in the face. You know, you'd think as a clone of Superman that face would be more 100% Superman. You know, they would have just used this face and then, like, I don't know, took away some of the detail to make him look younger. Also, look at how tall this figure is compared to this one. Like, their shoulders are in two different places and they shouldn't be. So, you know, it's like, but he is a clone. They could do different things with him to make him, you know, the way they want him to be. So I can't complain too much, but he looks good. He's real posable. I love the, you know, all the little details that they managed to capture, especially on the jacket, like the weird looking S on his shoulder. I always thought that was kind of funny. I never managed to get the DCUC version, so this works really well for me. I like the fact that he's got that goofy buzz cut. It's like a bowl cut almost. It just looks good, though, you know, the details. You're going to hear people bitch about it, but, I mean, how can you look at that and find an area to bitch about? It's well done. Any way you slice it, that is well fucking done. I mean, look at that shit. Look at the grain of the hair. Like, that's just well done. I remember they bitched about the same effect on the Last Night on Earth. I think that's what it's called. The Last Night Wave. You know what I'm talking about? With the terrible Bane figure that was just a big paperweight. She had a mohawk and the rest of her hair was shaved. And they sculpted in the grain of the hair. And people complained about how it looked. And I'm like, but that's what your hair looks like when it's cut that low. Remember Sinead O'Connor? It looked perfect. Like that's what it looked like. You know? Remember the Dora Milaje? You know, many of them had bald heads. And when you could see the grain of their hair amidst their tattoos, that's what it looked like. So I don't know. There's a lot of weirdness when it comes to McFarlane toys. So I would recommend not listening to all the weirdness. Like with Supergirl, see it for yourself. You know what I mean? People make weird, I don't know, they have weird criticisms that don't make sense. But, you know, here's his legs and his boots. Come on, look at him. Legs and boots, they're like wrestling boots. The belt is pretty cool. I don't remember him having these spikes, but they work. They work. And then a nice symbol on the chest. I mean on the back, as well as on his chest. He's got the weird belt that hangs down and connects to that. It should connect to that pouch on his side, but either way, I'm not complaining. It looks good. It's nice to have more Superman characters on the Superman shelf and in the Superman universe so that when I'm playing with my sons, we can have other things happening. Also, we're getting Steel this year, so it'll be nice to have, you know, Steel, Superboy, and eventually I'll use the one that I just got from the movie, but it'll be nice to have you know, Supergirl as well, like a comic book accurate Supergirl. But, you know, he's a cool figure. He's got a lot of personality, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because, I mean, that's who the character was, Mr. Personality. So it's nice to see, you know, all that coolness. He should have had an alternate head with the glasses on, like I said earlier, but, you know, I'm not complaining. It's pretty good. let's see. Who should we move on? Oh, the Page Punchers. That's where we'll go next. So, Page Punchers. This here was an amazing wave. I don't think I left out anybody. We'll do you guys over here. And there's the Page Punchers Aquaman wave. It's a cool wave because the figures just have so much fucking detail, man. Like, they went nuts on the detail. Now, some of the things work better than other things. I'll start with the figure that kind of suffers the most, and unfortunately that's Aquaman. And it's kind of sort of because this actually came from Black Adam. So for those who are wondering, it just looked, I mean, it's seahorses. It looks better with him. And I've seen other people use it too, so it shouldn't be that new and weird for people. But if you look at this, so while he can T-pose, it's just that big bulbous shoulder pad sometimes gets in the way. You know, it's huge. It looks good though. I mean, like in battle, it looks good, but like it stops this arm from going up any further. So if you had him swimming, you're gonna have to do that. This is gonna be I mean, it's the holding thing's hand, so, or arm, so, you know, he'd have to be like that. Again, he can't look up as much as some of the other figures, which sucks. And it actually, like, it drove me to get the older Aquaman that came out a couple months, maybe it was last year. It made me get that figure because it just made sense. But, like, you know, if he's in battle, though, this figure looks fucking phenomenal. I was surprised because I was thinking, like, he's going to look kind of whack because I can't pose him the way I want to. But, I mean, look at that. He looks great. I don't have any issues there. Move that out the way. So you can have him posted up with his new his young second in command, the future Aquaman, and you end up with a really nice look. Also, if you have him posted up against Ocean Master, it looks really good. And Calder is actually a really good looking figure. They did a really good job with him. I was surprised at how cool he looks because I don't necessarily like this version. I prefer the Young Justice version. It doesn't have like the hipster shaved on the sides bullshit that they seem to do all the time with these characters in this day and age. And I'm like, dude, there's other haircuts that you can do. You know what I mean? Like, there's tons of other haircuts that work just as well. You don't have to only do the hipster, you know, I'm you know, checking off all the boxes haircut. You know what I'm saying? So posing them together looks really cool. They actually look ready for war. You know what I mean? Are you ready for war, my brother? Sorry, is you ready for war, my brother? As the song goes. Is you ready for war? Shit looks good. All the details that you need to make these guys feel like, you know, Atlanteans, they're all there. And nothing seems to get lost, you know what I mean? Like, the design elements are all, like, right there. It's clear as fuck. I love it, man. I was surprised when I got them that they worked so well. You know, that everything fit so well. You know, I was expecting more of a fail somewhere, you know? But yeah, it all works really well. So... But let's take a second and look at the detail on this guy, because that's where this figure actually, like, really excels. He's got so much fucking detail on him. He didn't come with extra hands. He came with a comic. It's the same comic all of them came with. I'm not even going to bother digging that out, but you know McFarlane. This comic is 100% better than the last one. The one that came with the... who did he come with? The last one came with the Flash and them. This one is way better. The art is way better. Everything's clean and readable. It looks like a legit comic book that you would spend money on, not like the one from that previous Page Punchers wave. And it's funny, his face kind of reminds me of Carl Urban. Like that's what they were thinking about when they made this figure. But look at the detail on this guy. I mean, look at the detail on the shoulder pad. Let me pull this light back over here so you can see that. Look at that. He's got detail everywhere. I mean, look at the strap right there. Detail. Look at the back of the strap. Detail. Now some paint. This is one of those times where, you know how a lot of customizers love to put black wash on every goddamn thing? You could put a wash of some sort. I would use like a dark orange on the scale mail here. For his orange, like a dark crimson or a like an ochre, a brown or an ochre for this. And then probably the same for the gold on his legs. I mean, look at the detail on that. Beautiful. All the way around. Beautiful. And then the same thing on his boots. I mean, look at that. It looks great. And even the shoes, like the bottom of his boot right here. Or the lower part of his boot. Look at that. There's detail all the way through. Even on the tip of the boot. So yeah, props to them for what they did. His belt looks good. All the way around. Let's T-pose it so you can see all that. Not to mention all the texture in his pants. I mean, like, this is top-notch shit right here. And then look at the detail on the freaking trident itself. You got the Aquaman symbol right there, or Atlantis symbol. The handle, look at the grip right there on the handle. Even though he can grip it in many places, you can hold it anywhere just about. Look at that. So good. And then lastly, let's look at his face, because they did a really good job with this face. I was actually impressed with the face. Normally, I don't spend very much time like looking over characters' faces like that because, I mean, Aquaman, blonde dude, looks gruff, beard, you know? As long as he has those things, I'm like, yeah, it's Aquaman. Looks like Arthur, I got it. But considering that Momoa has left such a mark when it comes to the character, now when you look at Aquaman, there's going to be elements of Momoa's face in that design. And seeing them capture that is pretty cool. So you got the necklace, which looks good. And then the face. Like I said, Carl Urban is who I see in this face. Sorry, I'm moving like I have a gimbal, but I don't. The eyes are not looking to the side like everyone likes to complain about. The beard is nicely, edged up. His hair is nice and fucking flock of seagulls shit going on. Like it's flock of seagulls on steroids. This shit looks beautiful. That is a powerful mullet. Let's give you the spin around, Arthur, spin around. Look at that hair. It looks like it's flowing. That shit is fucking L'Oreal, baby. Fucking L'Oreal. Looks really good. But because he was limited, and I was like, maybe this could be a specific situation Aquaman, you know what I mean? Like the fall of Atlantis or some shit. I was like, let me go back and get the more classic Aquaman that has all the posability and has nothing obstructing his arm, because that always bugged me, and I don't like when figures lose out on their ability to move. I hate when articulation is kind of removed from a figure. I mean, obviously it's not intentional, but I kind of hate when that happens. But it made me go and get this Aquaman, who he also kind of has the side eye, but I can deal with it because it's in line with the attitude of the character. He's got a more traditional trident, although I'm going to make him use the bigger trident because I prefer that. But, ooh, shit. I almost had a crisis. Come on, Calder, don't do that shit. Don't do that shit, homie. So this was the Aquaman that I got. This one came out around the time, I think it was the Endless Winter was the line that came out around the time that Aquaman popped up. I think I saw him at the store around that time, so I could be wrong. Not that it matters because I'm just telling you what I got. I'm not actually giving you the history of the figures, but that is classic Aquaman from head to toe. I mean, the feet and everything. He's got the fins on his the backs of his calves. He has them too. They're a little different here. Oh, come on. So I broke out the stands. You know, these DC figures, there's like issues with their ankles on many figures, so sometimes they fall, even though they have ratcheted ankles. But this one is more traditional. I dig the fact that it's essentially everything you saw almost verbatim in the movie. It's hitting all the comic stuff because this is the comic suit. But he's got the beard, and I want to go get up close so that you can see how they managed to capture some of the same details that they have going on this one, except, let's move you back a little bit more, except they managed to kind of, sorry about that, they simplified some stuff, and he's a little bit shorter, which is kind of weird. So it's like, I don't know, is he still growing? But if you look closely, it's like pretty much the same face. It's just a slightly different beard and slightly different hair. It's like his hair is wet. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, well, his hair is wet, but his beard is not. But then on this one, his hair is flowing in the wind, in the water, and then his mustache and beard are kind of coiffed. Coiffed is the word, coiffed. But I like them. They fit, and he's posable. He does the job really well. He looks really cool on the throne. I prefer the one with all the, accoutrement. I prefer that one. He looks really nice. But if you're gonna get Aquaman, these are the two to get. You want to battle, like, Atlantean battle dress uniform Aquaman, then you get the other one. And if you want traditional Aquaman, you get this one right here. But yeah, I got those two. And he is not, again, just for people who might not have caught that part, he is not part of the Page Punchers wave. He is, and you can tell because the paint is simpler. There's metallic paint here, metallic paint here. The Trident itself has more of a metallic feel to it, where the Page Punchers kind of, sort of, it depends. Certain figures will have that kind of stuff, but typically it's like two tones. You see it's dark orange and light orange with the highlights. The skin tones and the hair will look fairly realistic, but like everything else will have that more plasticky, simplistic finish to it. So that's that for Aquaman, or Aquaman. Let's look at Calderon. I really like this figure. I haven't had too many of his figures. I've only had the one from Mattel years ago. And I reviewed that figure on my channel, so you can go back and look at that one. But this guy's really cool. They made some changes, like he doesn't have the bare feet. I don't remember if that's a Rebirth change or if that was a McFarlane change. I didn't read his book. I never liked what they were doing with him in the comics. Shit, I didn't even really like how he ended up in the show. He got convoluted, and they were retconning stuff, and it just was it was dumb. I didn't really like Young Justice Invasion, I think it was called, the very last season they did that was on Netflix. I was not a fan of that shit. It felt different. I did think it was funny when Lobo got his thumb chopped off, and in the credits, the thumb was just sitting there, and that like nursery rhyme sounding music or lullaby sounding music was playing. I thought that was hilarious. But anyway, he's dope. He's got the cool tattoos with that cool day glow-ish kind of color. It's mainly just a color that scintillates for the most part when it's against slightly darker colors or less chromatic colors. Looks really good against the black. Gives off the impression of glowing. These blades are really cool because they're transparent, and they're really transparent. If you have something behind it, you can really tell because you can see me through it. But they look just, glossy enough to give you the impression that they're water. And then, just like the Mattel one previously, if you want to have the water bearers in his backpack, you can do that. But as you can see, everything is working really well. The colors are nice. The water bearers have a place to go. And yeah, all in all, they did a great job with this guy, man. Look at that face sculpt, man. It's a really good face. Really good face. They made him pretty, but still masculine, you know what I mean? And I know McFarlane, that's kind of the way they would do stuff. If they're going to make a pretty dude, they're not going to make him look 100% feminine because he's old school, and you can have, both. You can have the feminine guys and you can have the slightly masculine, you know what I mean? Like, the attractiveness, but then also have the toughness, with the jawline and everything. He looks like a comic book character, not like a fan fiction character, which I dig. So, yeah, he's really well done, which will allow me to either have him on display with Aquaman, because you know that historically he becomes the Aquaman in the future, which is kind of cool. I like that. And then also he becomes, if you want to use Young Justice, or even some of the Titans episodes during that time period, you can have him over here with the Titans. Yeah, over the time that it took me, I had a little break in between the first half of the video and this half. I ended up getting all of them. Here's the, Nightwing. And I threw in my DC collectibles Starfire. And then also my Snyderverse Cyborg, because it just makes sense, Nothing about him has to match the others. So for him to look super high-tech, it's just perfect. And then you could put the Signal on the team if you wanted. And we got Superboy. So, that's always cool. But McFarlane is doing the Lord's work, man. I mean, you see how good these guys look. I mean, look at them. Look at Raven. Raven is probably my favorite redesign on the team. They look so good. And then Speedy looks really cool as well. I mean, they all look cool, but I mean, like, they look stark and distinct. I am the least impressed with Changeling and Nightwing, because they're using the same body. And, usually Changeling is smaller than Nightwing. So I don't know why he didn't follow those proportions. But the figures are cool. Another issue I have is with Nightwing, he doesn't have holding things hands. So what you would have to do is you would have to pop off the hands from the Arkham Knight's Nightwing and replace them. Because he also didn't come with his sticks. So if you have this guy, you could take his hands off. You see he's got holding things hands. And he also has the billy clubs in the back, the Screamer sticks. And you could switch them. Now the problem is if you switch those hands onto this Nightwing, the blue doesn't match. If you switch these hands, they're all black. It's perfect. So it fits with no problem. So, the benefits come with him using his parts and not the other way around. Another issue I have with Nightwing is for some reason his left arm doesn't stay attached well. Let me show you. I love the expression. It's so Dick Grayson, you know? It's kind of cocky. It's like he's having fun, sure of himself, but he doesn't look like a complete dick, no pun intended. But so his arm. So if I do this with this arm, see how it moves with no problem. If I do it with this one, it just pops off, and I don't understand what it is. I mean, I do. The lip at the top of this is just not enough. So I'm going to end up having to glue some so that it can stick in there and we can have more, you know, we have more for it to grab onto. I might just glue it in place and just, you know, lose the swivel on this side, but put it at an angle like that so that I can just move the arm and not have to worry about the swivel, you know, and it still will look natural. But yeah, it's kind of annoying that that's an issue. Every now and then, McFarlane Toys has that kind of shit happen, and it kind of screws up the, you know, the vibe of his figures. And I'm hoping that we get a Starfire, and I want her to be tall because Starfire is supposed to, you know, kind of tower over Dick. She should be like up here instead of down here. You know, she's supposed to be like 7 feet tall, not like 5'11" like this. You know what I mean? That's a little too small. But I like this figure. I like this design. I hated this version of the character in Red Hood and the Outlaws. She was a little on the ho-ish side, and it was as if someone, that's all they got from, you know, her storyline. So, you know, that bugged me. Yeah, I got a representation, and that's kind of the important part for me. And then also, if you have Wally West, you can throw Wally West on there. But look at this hair. That's fucking phenomenal. I'm telling you, I miss DC collectibles. I know they're in league with McFarlane now, so like some stuff from them gets released through McFarlane. But I still miss when they were making figures themselves. I wish they would still be part of the process, so we could still get some figures from them as well as McFarlane, because, you know, you need as much of the quality as you can get, because, you know, more quality is better for everybody. Alright, so next up, let's talk about, let's see, who should we talk about next? Ocean Master. This figure here, the truth. I mean, look at how well done this guy is. Details out the wazoo. Put him in a cool Ocean Mastery type pose, because, you know, he's all about being the man. He wants to be the man so bad. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that shit. Got the heavy light, the darks, and the ooh-wee. Look at that shit. He looks raw. Like, it's kind of crazy that, like, they're able to do this level of detail for 20 bucks or 24 bucks. And it's strange because, you know, I point this stuff out and you still have haters. You still have people complaining. A lot of times I'm sitting here amazed at the level of sculpt work that comes out of McFarlane's, you know, camp. And too many people are too busy dissing them because they, you know, nitpick proportions, or they nitpick, you know, the particular costume. Why did they make that costume? I wanted this costume. I'm like, dude, look what we got, period. You know, I'm not saying don't give us the cool shit, but I am saying that if you look at what he is giving us, what he is making, it's light years beyond what you're getting on the other side, you know, and from other guys. So it's strange to me that we get the kind of bullshit attitude when it comes to McFarlane when this is what he's producing, you know? These figures look phenomenal. And strangely enough, he's not dropping the quality. The quality just keeps getting better and better and better. And I don't know. I, for one, am impressed. I mean, in a short time, I'm replacing the majority of my DC UC collection. And I shouldn't say replacing, but I'm getting equivalents in the modern era. You know, I'm getting modern equivalents of my DCUCs, so I can put the DCUCs on a classic shelf. Finally, because that's what I've always wanted to do, is have a classic shelf and then have a like a modern shelf. You know, so finally I can have that, and it just makes me happy that that's on the agenda. You know what I mean? I can actually do that shit. So yeah, Ocean Master looks amazing, from head to toe. I mean, just look at the detail in his boots. Like, what the fuck? And I mean, like, yeah, you could put a wash on it. Same thing with this belt piece, this armor on the sides and stuff. You could do that. But even without it, knowing that you have a toy, you know what I mean? Because I think that's one of the things that a lot of collectors, it's like they want to pretend like this is a high-end sculpture or something, and it's not. It's clearly a toy. It's not trying to be something else. You play with this. It's supposed to be this. When you take that into account and you look at what you got, you're getting a hell of a lot for very little, you know? For very fucking little. Look at the details on the cape up there. It's like, I mean, what the fuck, man? All the different textures. You've got the crustacean texture. You've got the bi-weave of some sort with that cool mesh patterning. Then you've got the flat out just like armor and the gold and the, like, what in the hell, man? The pants have a different texture from the upper body. Like, and then the cape has its own texture. I mean, if you guys, are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Like, look at this. It's on a different level, man. Like, how could you not be impressed with this? Look at the amount of detail on that thing. It's a lot. And people will still find ways to be like, oh, they need to put paint on the chain. And then the chain is painted. It's two different golds. And maybe my lighting isn't doing the best job, but it's two different golds. That's just crazy, man. So I'm impressed. And then let's look at his face real quick, because this guy has a very unique mug, and sometimes they do a great job. Look at that mug. Look at that shit. Just look at that shit, man. Do you see it? You see that shit? You love that shit. It looks perfect. Yeah, it's great. It's great, man. I don't know. I am thoroughly impressed with this figure. I am impressed with this whole wave, man. Like, it's as dope as it looked on the page. And that makes me happy, because we need more of that. You know? It kind of justifies how excited I get at McFarlane figures. And now, Black Manta. Now, considering the last Black Manta that we had, the one from the movie, was amazing, it's kind of crazy to get this bad boy. And he's equally as amazing. You know, if not more. I mean, he's got this cool curved lance. It's very weird, but I get it. I don't know if it's supposed to stay curved or not. I don't get what's going on with that in that respect, but I like it. I like it. It works. You can make it work. If you don't think it works initially, just play with it a little bit and you can make it work. There are curved weapons like that. It reminds me of the Klingon blades. But yeah, it's great. It's great. But this is not the attraction. This is just extra. This is set dressing. The attraction is this figure. I mean, there was a Imaginext version of Black Manta years ago that looked like this, and I could not believe it. ODCdatsme got it for my son for his birthday one year, and we both were just like, God, look at how slick he looks. And he came with two sets of tridents, and you know, he just looked amazing, man. And you were looking at this bad boy, and it's like, look at him. Everything is there. Everything is small. This looks better than the suit that we're getting in the movie, the upcoming movie. And I get it. The movie's going for a comic accurate look, but shit. I mean, if he had this could be a movie suit. This feels like the aesthetic that we got from the SIC toy line from Bandai when they would redesign Kamen Riders and stuff. It's just phenomenal, man. Effing phenomenal. Now, something else that's really dope about this figure is he's not just like a really dope sculpt with a weird, you know, accessory in quotes. He also comes with these cool blades. You've got two of them because you can use them on both hands. Because if you noticed in the movie and in the comics from time to time, he'll have these retractable blades on his armor. When I first saw the figure, I was like, I really hope, because he had the blade sticking out, I was like, I really hope that they don't make the blades stuck to him, because that would piss me off. You know what I mean? You got this perfect sculpt, and then you have blades that are stuck. But, you know, there you go. And that looks mean as hell. Mean as all hell. And, like, just the simple fact that they actually thought about it, and they said, you know, Black Manta has a suit that does a lot of things, and they said, hey, we could do this, make the accessory something that you add on to his body, and then there you go. So this is a home fucking run, and he didn't get enough talk. And I think part of the problem, I'm going to go into another rant, but that's what these sit downs are for, so you could hear, I can share my thoughts with you. It's not just me telling you, like, look, there's a thing I bought like everybody else. You know, you should know this is what you get when you come to Strydent's page. You get a little more shit. You get a lot more than what the average is. You also get me battling with figures that don't want to fucking stand up. Figures predominantly made by Hasbro that don't want to fucking stand up, and I have to constantly repose and get. I'm just gonna get her out of here. When I get to this part, I'll tell you about her. But anyway, part of the problem that I'm seeing with McFarlane, I love the smaller waves. 4 figures in a wave is pretty amazing. I love the fact that, you know, if it's a page puncher, it'll probably come with accessories and not hands, you know, and extra heads, that sort of thing. If it's a Spawn figure, more than likely it's going to have 1 extra hand and then a bunch of accessories, which I'm cool with. But it's like you give up some stuff that you traditionally get with other figures for McFarlane figures, and I like what they're doing. Like, if it's a standard multiverse release, it'll have extra hands and usually no special accessory unless it's like a Bat Family person, because then they all kind of pull from the same well. But the problem that they're running into, and I think this is why a lot of their figures tend to you tend to see some patterns in their figures, you know what I mean? Like I said, with what they come with, like the way the reviews work. Like, I didn't see very many reviews about Black Manta. It's as though people got him and then totally forgot that he existed, or he ran his course. You know how I made that comment about toys and their shelf life. Toys typically do not have a shelf life, but it seems that if it's McFarlane, they definitely have a shelf life. If it's Marvel Legends, they definitely have a shelf life, because they come out and everybody makes a big deal about them for 2 seconds, and then before you know it, there's a whole nother wave right after it. Anyway, Black Manta's dope. You can take the swords out of here, which is a huge plus. So if you want him to just be badass without that, it's really dope. One thing I keep coming back to when I talk about him is the Imaginext version. You've already seen it. I'm going to bring it back up so you can see it. But this is like McFarlane and them saw the Imaginext version just like I did, and they're like, yo, we should make that into an actual figure. And here we go. It's weird how there are certain designers, or it's even possible that one of the sculptors was the person who sculpted that Imaginext version of Black Manta. But this kicks the shit out of everything we've gotten before. I mean, if you can't get the one from the movie, get this one. I'm about to throw away the one I had from DCUC. Remember, I got the one from the 2-pack that had the neoprene kind of feeling to the skin. It felt like he was a wetsuit material. Man, that thing didn't age well at all. After a few years and a few summers, he got sticky. I had to put him in a bag, and then like he's sticking to the bag. It's gross, man. Like that thing's going in the trash. I don't wish that on anybody. And it's crazy because he's one of the more like rare, because he's a classic design. You know, he's got the blue sculpt or blue paint job or something. Like, no thank you. It's just not that great. The not in long term, it's not that great. But the Aquaman that came with it is amazing. He looks cool, poses fine, has the trunks. I think he has. Does he have black trunks on? Because he's old school. I don't know. It's very classic. So if you like the classic stuff, you can hunt that down. But that was when Mattel was being slick and giving us a second chance at certain characters, albeit with a slightly different paint job. But yeah, this thing here is the truth. If you find it, get it. He's kind of the standout member of that Page Punchers wave. But yeah, I love it. It's such a dope figure. So yeah, that is it for the Page Punchers. Let's talk about some of these other McFarlane figures. I want to get a whole bunch of them out the way. I think I only have one DC person left to talk about. Let me look over this real quick before I say that. I don't want to say it and then look stupid. Yeah, it's one DC person left, and that is none other than Calabac. This motherfucker here. When I saw this figure, I was like, they actually went back and they're like invalidating all of these DCUCs, man. The DCUCs may be classic, and I apologize for this. I'm going to be quiet and then I'm going to start over when I get this camera set up the right way. Okay, the next person I want to talk about is this guy right here, Calabac. When I saw this figure, I was like, good Lord have mercy. Considering that the last one was a dope figure, this guy here is just a monster, and he's only 40 bucks. He's almost the same size as the DCUC Doomsday, which is nuts because that figure was like 60 or 70 bucks. And it looks good. And then this guy isn't even like a major, I mean, he should be a major threat, but he's not. And like I said, the last one that we got from DCUC was pretty dope. I'll show you him so you can see some contrast here. Compare and contrast. I mean, it's possible the same person may have even sculpted both figures. There are so many similarities, of course, or they're just following the, you know, the design language or the design information. But I mean, look at how well done this is. But look at the size difference. It's like this is his baby, his son. It's like it's his baby brother. He had a baby brother, and he was perfect in every way. I mean, it's kind of hard to like really sit here and like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you even compare these guys? It's like they're trying to do different things, but when you look at them, you just see from head to toe, there's so much different, but the same. And this is what I was saying was missing from current Marvel Legends that I used to love about the old Marvel Legends. Like, you see how on this Calabac, on the new Calabac, his boots have seams and they have texture and they have a sole to them. You see that? Whereas on the classic one, they're just gloves. There's no sole, there's no seams, nothing. It's just, there's wrinkles, but they're just like skin socks. It's like literally like those rubber gloves that we wash dishes with. And I always had a gripe about that, because you look at these characters and part of the fun is them feeling like living, breathing characters, and them feeling like you're seeing them in a movie. I mean, when you're a kid and you play with these toys, you imagine them in motion. You imagine what they would look like in a movie. You imagine them like being real. So when you get these figures, it always helps when the figures have that level of realism added to them. I'm not going to really spend too much time about articulation and stuff. This is just me showcasing, you know, these figures and giving you my thoughts. But this figure is, whew, shit. He's dope. I mean, look at that. I love this royal shoulder piece that he's got on the shoulder pad with the tassels and stuff. Like, he's royalty, you know? And he's huge, which is cool because you can put him next to the Snyderverse version of Doomsday. And Darkseid. And they look like, you know, they're going to come to your town and fuck shit up. Like, they're not going to play with you. They're not going to come and be nice and have peace talks. They're going to come to your town and they're going to take all your food. And they're going to take everything you have. And they're going to beat you up and enjoy it. They'll strike you and laugh while they strike you. They will enjoy it. Yeah, they will enjoy wrecking your shit. Like, and that's the way, I mean, they come from a planet called Apocalypse. I mean, fuck. When you think about it, it's like, yeah, you're not gonna have a negotiation with guys from Apocalypse, you know? It's almost like you may as well just shut up and take your lumps, because that's what you're getting from them. So, as you can see, he towers over Superman, which looks amazing. That's the way it's supposed to be. He's supposed to look like a threat. Superman should look capable, but the villains need to look like a threat. Unless it's one of those softer villains, you know, like how Stiltman is compared to, you know, Daredevil and the Punisher. You kind of have that, like Magpie. She shouldn't look like a freaking, you know, threat, because she's not. You know what I mean? She's just annoying. She's a minor annoyance. Whereas, like, apocalyptian threats, yeah, they need to look like some serious threats. So, it's super dope. Super dope. They did such a good job. My only gripe, and it's not much of a gripe because I could just switch it up if I want, is the club. I think what they call them, a beta club or some shit. Beta club. I don't like this club. I like the knuckle guard, but I prefer the club that looks like an actual club / scepter. Ooh, let me turn that around. It shouldn't. It says China all big. China. China. I'm not trying to show off where it was manufactured. I'm trying to show off the thing itself. Put your hand up here, man. There you go. So you see what I'm saying? Like, one looks like a weird kind of tool, and the other one looks like a club / chalice. I prefer the chalice look, because you could bludgeon someone to death with it. This one looks like you'd be cutting them when you punch them with those bladed, the knuckle guard. Whereas you could barely whack somebody with that weird metal furnace. It looks like a metal furnace. Look at that. Furnace. Anyway. that's my out of pocket comment for the day. Anyway, I still love this figure. They did everything right. He's pretty damn posable. He's easy to move. Like, he's not all like stuck, and the joints hold so well. One thing I like about the Mega figures in general is that they're normally on McFarlane figures they have ratcheted ankles and ratchets, sometimes in the elbow joint. You can see them on the mega figures, and then they have ratchets in their wrists sometimes. He doesn't have, his ratchets are there, but there's enough of I guess it's not tight, so it's not as tight as it is on some of the smaller ones, so it's easy to manipulate. And then also it's not so slack that, you know, if he's standing there, he'll slowly, you know, and then fall over and fuck up your whole setup. So you don't have to worry about that with this guy, you know. You really don't even have to worry about it that much with this Superman right here. He's actually really good. I customized him, of course, different head, gave him a cloth cape. Love it. I don't think I've shown this yet. I guess I can show off these, you know, custom soups. I mean, you'll see them in my intros because I'm slowly improving those intros, or adding to the intros, I should say. I think, you know, being that I talk toys, and toys are like my happy place. It's the toys. It's not going to be me. You're not going to see my face all the time, but, you know, these figures look amazing when they're caped figures and they have a custom, you know, cloth cape to do some of the talking for them. It helps. So that is what we're doing. And I love this Superman face because it's gentle enough, but it's also, what's the word I'm looking for? It is also determined enough that it doesn't look out of place, you know? It looks like Superman. And when you see him out there amongst other characters, I mean, you get that feeling, you know what I mean? You get that truth, justice, in the American way. American way. Oh my God. Anyway. Oh my goodness. Dude, I've had I'm sorry, my ninjas. I shouldn't say dude. It's not like I'm speaking to one person. I have had a long week. So, actually, several long weeks in a row. There was 1 week so far in the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks since I started this video, where I didn't have to work the entire thing and do like some mundane stuff, you know, throughout that time. We just finished working a fair, a county fair, and oof, I got work done, but man, you want to talk about uninspired conversation. So I was itching to get back to my happy place, which is, you know, do some of this or talk to my friends, you know, talk to, you know, some of my ninjas, or freaking come listen to what my son has to tell me about his day to day. You know, I was dying for that shit. So I'm really glad to be back doing this, because holy shit, when I tell you I repeated myself every day, all day, like that was the majority of my conversations. Yo, I repeated myself all day, every day. But anyway, that's a really dope custom, really good figure. McFarlane, again, just doing God's work. This guy here, you should really pick him up if you can. For some reason, it's much like I said with Black Manta. A lot of these figures seem to be of the, you know, big deal when they came out, and then people forget that they exist. Look at that face. The face. Look at the face. He's like such a troll. But he looks so gross. We can get up on that ugly ass face. Look at that. And this was only $40. Oh my God, man. You know, it's possible to make amazing figures and not break the bank. So if you can find him, get him. I mean, that's going to be the sentiment with a lot of what I'm showing you in this video. These are my like go-tos. It's my happy place. You know me, I'm a DC. But like, I'm not all about the new DC stuff. I'm all about the old DC with a kind of a fresh coat of paint on it. I like when they weren't trying to capture, you know, the quote-unquote modern art audience. I like when Justice League Unlimited was just blowing away all the competition, and I love when they take these classic characters and they just make them look more like what the description of them would be. You know what I'm saying? So I love this. Let's see. Now we can move on to just McFarlane shit. Spawn universe. I did get Medieval Spawn. I had been waiting for this guy. And he is glorious. It's fucking dope. From head to toe. So much detail. I mean, look at that boot. And of course, we gotta look at this boot. Of course, their skulls abound, because, you know, edgelord, it's edgy. Sword looks really good. Yeah, I'm impressed with this guy. He looks really cool. I had so much fun with him. And again, you know, my gripe with Mythic Legions is that I want them to be able to do this. They have less armor on their body than this guy, and they can't do this. And, like, I can manipulate him while still holding the sword to make him do other things because he has range of motion in his wrists. You know? So if you want him to be, like, holding the blade, like, to the side, like he's running and he's getting ready to strike, you can do that because he can lower his guard while holding the sword with both hands. So you can turn his waist and have the blade at his side. You know? You could just do it like this and then have him reach the blade with the other hand. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it, the amount of posability that these guys have. And people will make all these attempts to diss these figures and, you know, do the tribalism thing. And it's unnecessary because, I mean, if the figure's done right, the figure is done right. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no two ways about it. You can sit there and you can argue, you can complain, you can diss, you can do what you want to do. But, you know, at the end of the day, objectively, this figure does the things that it's set out to do. And what it's set out to do is be a figure that you can easily manipulate and play with, you know? And it doesn't break the cost does not break the bank. And the look fits the aesthetics found in the comic book that the character comes from. I mean, look at that. I mean, people want to act funny about these figures, but I mean, you can't deny how well made these figures are, you know? They're so well done that at times it's kind of surprising, you know, that, like, this wasn't some deluxe figure. This wasn't some, like, special edition something or other. This is a standard release. I mean, obviously there are little details that give it away, like the lack of paint on some of the silver bits, but I mean, like, considering you got all this and it's malleable in the armor bits, but there's so much detail in there, you could light him a certain way and then you end up with personality. I mean, check this out. Does he still need all the paint? You know, I can even do this. Let's make the lights in front a little bit lower. Look at that. And then you end up with lots of gradation going on in here. And this is painted one color. You know what I mean? So, you know, your lighting is going to be a big factor. I mean, look at that. Lighting is a big factor in what makes these figures look cooler or not. So, yeah, I'm really geeked about him. There's a lot more cool stuff. I'm going to pick up Monolith because he's a cool looking figure and he's ginormous. And I love the Spawn figures to use as both heroes and villains in some situations. I managed to, while we're talking about Spawn, I got several different Spawn figures and some other supporting characters. We got Nightmare Spawn. I got Plague Spawn, which is just a remake of the Plague. I had the original Plague. He had like a bone color to him. This reminds me of Vecna from Stranger Things, so I kind of imagine he would you know, serve that purpose. Then I finally got the Raven spawn. I got him on sale for like 14 or 15 bucks. After so fucking long, I had been waiting to get this guy. He's pretty dope looking. And I think I showed you in the other one that I had the Omega spawn. And I also had got Mandarin spawn, which I showed you in another video, because he has so much armor on. And I got 2 of him. And okay, and then the one I was trying to remember that I had that I totally forgot was the ninja spawn. I managed to get him, and I got just the regular deluxe paint job, not the new one that has the what color is he? He's like white or something like that. He's like white or gray or something. He's got weird colors compared to this one. But and I haven't yet made the there's like a large Nightmare spawn or something like that, or maybe that's Nightmare Batman I'm thinking of. I can't remember. All of these guys are variants of an original character, so I knew that was gonna happen. I kind of just went for the ones that I wanted, which were these guys, and then you know, I was thinking of putting Ninja Spawn with my Ninja Turtles with the Foot Clan, like he's some kind of demon that they summon. He's a ninja demon. And you know, because if you read the Mirage Ninja Turtles, then you know that there's like a lot going on in that universe. There's demons, there's, you know, interdimensional beings or extra dimensional beings. There's all kinds of shit going on in there, and they kill, and there's you know, intrigue and murder and, like, you know, sometimes sex and like weird stuff. So these kinds of like weird looking, more visceral heroes and villains, you know, they're commonplace. I mean, it's an independent comic. They can kind of get away with everything, you know, and they do tend to pay homage to a lot of things in that line. But these are the spawns I've picked up in recent days, recent months, and I love all of them. I mean, there's so much to love detail-wise with these guys. And then there's tons of accessories. Like, he has extra hands. I think he has 2 of those and 2 fist hands, which are awesome. Then he has like chains and like a chain that has like a sickle connected to it. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. The only one that didn't really come with that much is Nightmare Spawn. He didn't really have anything except those wings, and I'm good with that. He's very, I mean, you see he's squatting, copping a squat like he's fresh off the boat, and there's no issues. I love it. I love it. And just the details, that weird texture and the way the like paint kind of forms the it's like he used chalk or something or ash and painted on his symbol. I like it, you know. I dig it. Next in line with these guys is a character who I don't really know much about. I didn't know much about until I got the figure. Then I looked up details to find out who he was, and that is Sin, which is kind of weird because Sin turns out to be a version of Cagliostro. And Cagliostro, I remember at one point in time he was medieval Spawn, at another point in time he was kind of the guy training Spawn, and at another point in time he was he's a villain, straight up. He's against Spawn. He's using him for his own ends. Some of that stuff kind of bled into all of his plots, but, you know, I'm here to talk about the figure. This figure is fucking dope. From head to toe, lots of detail. I mean, it's McFarlane, so I have to say it. And with all the layers, he's still extremely posable. And then the effect parts actually work. You know, a lot of times we get effect parts on toys, and the effect parts are shit. They don't work. Figure can't stand properly. Things don't work like they're supposed to. These effect parts They do exactly what they're supposed to do. I mean, you see that? It's mimicking his hand. And it does it well. And it's easy to get on there. You don't have to worry too hard. Then the other side, the effect part is like a sword made of electricity, which I like. See, why couldn't guys that look like this be Super Sentai villains in America? You know what I mean? Like, when I told you guys that my history with McFarlane figures is that when I wanted villains to fight my Super Sentai guys, I would always get McFarlane figures. So, like, when I had the Interlink 6, because I had one of them when I was a kid, I used him as a Sentai villain. You know, when I had Manga Spawn, every version of Manga Spawn except for the first one. No, except for the black. I have the black one. I used the black version as Brainiac. And he's still my stand-in for Brainiac until they make the one from Injustice, because that's my favorite design of Brainiac so far. Until they do that, that's my Brainiac. But I've used all the others as villains for each of the different, you know, my Kamen Riders and several of my different, you know, Power Rangers in general, or Super Sentai teams. And it's always worked. They look good. They're taller than the heroes. They were posable enough that you can have them cutting at them, and they could be blocking with their sword or their shield or whatever they come with. It just works really well. And you look at this, I mean, from what I remember, Cagliostro was a white dude. So I could make this guy someone's father who's black, one of the Rangers who happens to be black. It could be their father, and he's the villain. And I can come up with whatever I want to come up with to make it work. But, you know, that's just kind of another way I used to use these figures. But God, I love this. I love it. I love the design. I love the detail. I mean, some people will be like, it needs a wash. Again, lighting. And you can do effects in Photoshop once you take your picture. And just darken up things to make it look like there's wear and tear in places where your figure, for the most part, is pristine. And if you look closely, you can see where they put wear and tear on the actual figure. You know, on parts of the armor, so it looks like he's been through some shit. So, you know, it's not all lollipops and roses, even though there are some parts where things are pristine, like right in here. So, yeah, I'm impressed. I stay impressed with McFarlane. It's just like, what's not to love about someone who loves figures as much as I do? Except they make them, you know? They make them for people like me. There's no complaints. What am I complaining about? You know what I mean? I have nothing to complain about. It's just, it's so much fun. The figures look amazing. I know sometimes they don't stand up well. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna play and pretend like that's not an issue. It's an issue. But I mean, while I'm playing with them, I don't have that issue because I'm playing with them. Also, you know, some of us have stands, so we don't have to worry about that. And, you know, a lot of times if you use the McFarlane stand, that helps. So there are ways to circumvent that issue. It's just annoying that it is an issue. But, you know, I like these figures. I'm really happy with them. I don't have issues. I mean, look at this. Just look at that. He's so thorough. The way shadows fall on him, then the paint job doesn't matter as much. Yeah, I'm telling you, like, these figures, for the money, you can't beat it. You just can't, you know? And I got 2 more McFarlane figures to show you. Give me a sec. All right. Nightwolf. I know, it looks like the arrows are flaccid or something. But yeah. I got him for pretty cheap. Apparently people don't like him. Big surprise. But I love this design. I'm always big on Native American characters. I collected the McFarlane Assassin's Creed figures, despite all their flaws. I have all the versions of, what's his face? This is his bow and arrow. Connor. And I I stopped because I was so disappointed in the fact that they weren't posable. But you get some of that coolness here. And then on top of it, you get all the details, you know? So I am geeked about this. I love this guy. I'm going to put him... One thing I've done with the Mortal Kombat guys is I put them with my Motu and my Sword and Sandals dudes. So I'm going to put him with them because, you know, they fight and protect different realms and all that stuff. And there's just like a cool aesthetic. And again, paint. The blue stands out, but you could dirty up the blue if you want to. If you ever use charcoal powder, you can dirty up your figures and it washes off with, you know, just a real quick spray of water if you have one of those hoses, or if you just put it under the faucet, you'd be really happy because the shit will, it'll, you know, wash off super quick, super easy, even when it gets in between joints and stuff. But, I am really happy with this figure. I always liked the character, but I like where they were going with Nightwolf as like a, it's a mantle. It's not just a dude, you know? So there've been several Nightwolves over time, and I like that. I love Legacy when it matters. I don't like Legacy when it's just an excuse to keep on publishing a character or to keep on making money off of a thing. You know, I get it. As a business, you still need to have your characters, and they've got to, you know, they've got to exist longer so that you can make money and continue to make money, but at the same time, make the story reflect that awesomeness. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where it's at. And this guy is well done. They did a really good job making him, like this redesign. I mean, shit. Everything that you want in a redesign for Nightwolf is here. Instead of looking like some kind of weird, you know, adult dancer, you know, Native American biker. That's what the old one looked like, with the weird vest and then the tights and stuff. Like, what the fuck, man? You could easily have done this, and it just looks better. So props to NetherRealm for their redesign. And props to McFarlane for getting a hold of the design and making a cool figure out of it. And so my last McFarlane figure we're going to talk about for the night, Overkill. I always thought this name was funny because it's like, I can't call him Overkill because that name's taken, so let's call him Overt Kill. It's like, yeah. That's like, you know, we can't call him Speed Demon, so let's call him Fast Demon, you know? It's like the Acme version of. But this character has his own, you know, history. And, you know, being this big zombie cyborg type deal, it's just dope. Again, these are the things that when you read Kamen Rider, Shocker, they make this kind of shit. But, like, the way it's presented in the show is always goofy. So people have that misconception that it's supposed to be goofy, when for me, I'm like, yo, I have a different look at it. In the manga, it actually makes things more grotesque. So, you know, I was so disappointed. I finally saw the movie, and oof, the movie was not good. Not all the way. It started strong, and then it just, towards the end, I was just like, damn. Thematically, a lot of things worked, but shit, I was disappointed. But this is dope. I mean, look how big he is. I mean, compared to Nightwolf, let me put this hand down so you can put them next to each other. I mean, look at how much figure. And again, I think I paid 20 for this one. So I paid 20 for a mega figure, and then I turned around and paid like 13 or 12 for Nightwolf. I love the fact that this figure is so big, you know? They did a great job getting the proportions, you know, right. Because Overkill always towered over everybody. I love that he has a fist hand. In the old figure, there was like an action, I think. It was like a piston punch action where his fist shot out. I mean, it didn't release, but it extended. It was like a spring-loaded extension. And then I love that they added these shields and then the blades here. I think he always had the blades, but these weren't shields as much as they were part of his gauntlets. Now they're shields, and you can see it when you look at the other portion of his arm. You can see his arm is all up in there, and those are like plug-on shields or whatever. It's just a really well done figure, man. Really well done figure. I am happy to have this, and we're gonna have a lot of fun using this. It's kind of crazy to think that there was a point in time where this kind of figure would have cost you $100, or we would have thought it would have cost $100 just because of the amount of detail, the wash, all of that, you know. And now this kind of figure can be under $40, you know, $40 or less. It's times have changed, you know, and it sucks that it's not a consistent change, but you know, I'll take it. I'll take it in a heartbeat. This is the truth right here. Next up, we have the NECA Mirage series Casey Jones. Now, this was the Casey Jones I always wanted. I did also always want a like an updated version of the one from Playmates. So when I got the Super 7 version, thank you ODCdatsme, I was geeked, super geeked, because I had that when I was a kid. And I played with it. I still would have it if not for the Purge, but you know, shit happens. I have this version now. And then on top of it, I have the cartoon version, who just wants to break something. And I love that figure because, you know, he was cool when he first showed up. They were like, he knows Kung Fu! I was like, I do too. That's dope. But I love this design with the actual boots on, the sweatpants, and the sweatshirt. It's like really cool, really 80s, you know. I love the fact that he came with a removable, replaceable, unmasked head, and he also has like the mask that you can just put in his hands, so that he can, you know, you could pose him, you know, holding the mask, which is pretty dope. I was like, wow. And the mask itself is the right size so that it could theoretically fit on the unmasked head if you wanted it to. You see that? Because of the top of it being set up for you to hold it, for him to hold it, it can't actually go down on his face. But the face, it looks like Eastman and Laird's art. I love it. Mullet and everything. I wonder if they're going to do his daughter, Shadow. For those who know, you know. But yeah, I love it. He comes with the 2 bats, the golf club, and the I put a piece of paper in there because, you know, when you take the bats out, nothing helps hold these other things in. So I folded up a piece of cardboard, put it in there so that nothing pops out. But you've got the hockey stick and the golf club. And he has this, and he's got another pair of hands, so you can have him hanging out like a regular dude, and then you can make him run in and go change his clothes and put on his mask and grab his gear. And then also, if you get up close on his face, I want to say, no, never mind. I love the deep set eyes. It's pretty dope. But like, strangely enough, you can see the evolution, you know what I mean? Like, you look at this face, and then you look at this face. Let me put this hand down so that it's not pointing in. He's freaking enormous, these muscles. I just wish this figure stood better. He's such a pain in the ass to keep him standing. So you look at that face, look at this face, and then you look at this face, the one from the cartoon, and you see how they all slightly have like a different thing going on. Slightly different thing going on. But you can tell they're all Casey Jones. The nose especially kind of gives it away. But I love it. I love it. Casey Jones has been my favorite since I was so little. You know, he's like my favorite non-Ninja Turtle character, even more so than Usagi. And it was funny because I learned about Usagi when I was training with the Wakizashi. And it just was like, shit, you know, or I should say when we were learning Bujitsu. he was so cool, and the name Miyamoto Musashi, and like, I mean Miyamoto Usagi. Jesus Christ, my brain's moving too fast. I was learning about Musashi, and then I come across this samurai rabbit, Miyamoto Usagi. I was like, damn, this is cool. And then, all these years later, those characters are still here. But, long story short, NECA doing the Lord's work. NECA, man, I just did a vlog, and it should be popping up on my Patreon soon. Yes, the Patreon is still plugging away. It's like a wounded animal that has like ridiculous conviction. It will not die. I was talking about too much too soon, and something NECA's been guilty of is oftentimes they will just throw up all the releases, and so somehow we're required as collectors and as fans of what NECA does. Somehow we're required to be able to afford all the things, and I don't understand how that's even possible. I mean, like, everything's $50 a pop or more, and then you've got like 20 or 30 releases. It's like you got to take a second mortgage out or something. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta get a new line of credit just to afford the figures that you like. Not to say that I like all of them, but they just show so much. And we've got San Diego Comic-Con going on, and it's so many fucking releases, man. It's ridiculous. So Mad Hatter made a video questioning that. He's a Ninja Turtle mark. Calls himself a super fan, but he's a mark for the Ninja Turtles, and he buys everything that comes out. But if he's feeling this, then it's an example of the companies doing a little too much. Like, slow it down. Back in the day, we used to have like, a figure would come out, and on the back of the box there'd be like 6 to 8 figures, and it'd be half a year. That would be what's out there in circulation. And the second half of the year, it'd be 6 more figures. So you've got 12 for that year, 6 of which are already in circulation, 6 more which are starting to show up by the end of the year. The beginning of the next year, you should see them properly in stores, and then a new wave of figure shows. There's time, you know what I mean, for you to slowly get all the figures if you want them. There's time for everyone to see them all over the world or all over the US. And then there's time to actually make the others. It seems like they're in a mad dash these days to just make as many figures as possible and throw them all out there, because they know the way the fans will receive this shit, and the fans will kill each other to get them. And they're just more so than ever concerned with money. And, I know it's a business. I got my own business too. But at the same time, you got to think about the people who you are servicing, But anyway, rant over. Casey Jones, the truth. Love Casey Jones. Has always been one of my favorites. Let's move on to... Oh, I got something else controversial for you. It's not really controversial, but it's another rant. So there's so much dick riding going on when it comes to the action figure collecting part of YouTube, that like people just don't recognize quality when quality is in their face. I mean, you can see there's 2 Spider-Men on this screen right now, and this one is constantly lauded as the best Spider-Man from Peter B. Parker from Into the Spider-Verse. But they say it's screen accurate. If you look closely, there's a lot that's inaccurate about him. Colors are wrong. The actual anatomy of the figure is wrong. The way that the spider on his chest is connected to all the webbing is wrong. Even the color of the webbing is wrong. Like, there's so much wrong. The proportions of his arms to his hands, his neck to the, the upper torso and all that stuff. Even when you use the fat body, because this one is just fat. You can make him lean forward and kind of bend the torso at the top a little bit more to accentuate that. And supposedly that's supposed to make him look more fat or fatter, as opposed to simply giving us two torsos, two lower torsos, you know, like a skinnier in shape one and a plumper one like this. It's strange to me. But so over this past Christmas, I was fortunate enough to be gifted this. My brother-in-law got that for me. And then I came across a deal on Bandai's web shop, I think it is, Bandai.com. And they had the Sentinel one, which is indeed the better figure. And it's no surprise. If you know, you know. If you've been collecting, I mean, you can see it when you look at him here. Look at the webbing. The webbing is dark from certain angles, and then you just move to another angle, and you can see the webbing is actually gold, as opposed to this is a black wash that's in between the recesses to give you the impression he has black webbing. You look at areas like on his shoulders, and it's not even consistent. This guy's consistent all the way through. And even the way that the symbol, you see how there's a break in the web around the symbol? It doesn't connect to the actual symbol. That's screen accurate. I remember I watched a video where, you know, and I know you guys aren't concerned with the people who do these videos knowing their shit. There's a certain percentage of you out there that do care, because you actually want people to give you all the information and then you go and you make your purchase. But there's this contingent of you out there who just wants to hear what you think you already know. You don't want to hear the professionals have the opinion that guides your choices, you know? So you guys all go for the popular people, you know? You don't listen to what the people who are in the know have to say. So someone said his legs should look like this. If you watch the movie, the shape of the legs don't look like that in the movie. And if you don't even want to look at the movie, you can just look at any still from the art of. There's a curve, because these guys are cartoon characters. There's a curve in the leg, like a subtle curve. So many of the shapes on this guy's body, they're more accurate here than they are on this one. This one is a modded version of the Spider-Man that they've been selling for the last 4 or 5 years. This here is a completely new sculpt. I mean, even look at the recesses of his legs. It's got that weird boxiness to it, kind of reminiscent of the 2010, I think it's 2010, the Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know, the CGI Ninja Turtles TV show. They had that same boxy quality. The legs did the same thing and everything. This, when you put the two of them standing side by side, it becomes obvious that this is just a slightly modded version of what you always got from Mafex. Whereas the Sentinel, it's a new sculpt. It's got better engineering. The sculpt is better. The paint actually feels premium. And I'm going to get up close so you can see this stuff up close, so you understand where I'm coming from. Because a lot of you listen to the wrong people. You listen to the Marvel Legends people. And the Marvel Legends people, they've been making cheap, trying to make cheap look expensive for the last 20 years. You know? Trying to convince you that they're getting their money's worth with cheap figures. Meanwhile, you got companies like Sentinel doing what they're doing here. I mean, just look at it. All up in his fingers, on his hands, and even that. Do you see the distance from the back of his hand, like where his knuckles are to his fingers, how the lines are longer? That's in the movie. Look at the Mafex. Look at the Sentinel. Look at it right there. Like, these aren't things I'm making up just to you know, give you guys something to complain about or just to hear myself. Like, there's a lot done differently on the actual model. And I'll put the model up next to the... I will stand this figure up so you can get a full frame of him and I will put him next to, matter of fact, you know what I'll do? Probably be a better way to do it. I will put him here, and I will put him here, and then let's see if we get them all in frame, like so, with my knee, and then let's do this. We'll pull them a little bit farther away because we need some room, like that. And then I will move him over just a tad so you can also see him. And then I will put the Into the Spider-Verse model, the actual model in the center. That way you can see what I'm talking about. Matter of fact, I'll do you one better. I'm going to pose them exactly in the same pose, like a standard superhero pose, and then I'm going to put the Spider-Verse image in the center. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you that, you know, there is a difference, you know. A lot of people have been kind of shitting on this figure as if it's not a quality figure. God, that camera movement was... Oof. They've been shitting on this figure like it's not really doing magical things, you know what I'm saying? And it's a very well done figure. It does put the other Spider-Man figures to shame, because it knows what it's trying to do. Please forgive me while I set this camera in the right spot. It knows what it's set out to do. It sees what its source material is, and it's looking at that and trying to make sure it captures all that. So, you know, it is doing the right things. It's doing them the right way. It's making sure that you're not missing any details that are supposed to be on the figure. And that's commendable. That's why you get a Sentinel figure. It's going to be a crazy screen accuracy and then really crazy engineering, even if the engineering accomplishes its goal in a simple way. You notice that with the Mafex, I put him up, but his shoulder has this whole butterfly joint thing going on in there. But if you notice on here, you get the whole butterfly movement with one joint. Yeah, you get a little gap, but you still get this from behind. Look how clean that is. And then across the chest, you still get across the chest movement with no problems. It's even a little bit more of a across the chest than what you get with your Mafex in some ways. It's one of those things where you can achieve the same range of motion with less engineering. You just need to know what it is that you need to be doing to achieve that. You need to know more than one way to achieve what you're trying to achieve. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you engineer your figures, this is what I say all the time. This is something we have to do. This is something I wish more companies would just do. You engineer your figures, you end up with better results, you know? Engineer the shit out of the figure. If you don't engineer the figure, you end up with kind of a mediocre figure, you know? I mean, look at his leg. Look at that bend. That's one of the best bends I've ever seen on a figure. Miles is the same way. Yes, there's a gap, but, I mean, no gap, right? It's all about how you pose them. So, I just wanted to point this out. I love this figure. It's one of my favorites. It may be my favorite Spider-Man, Peter Parker. You know, my favorite, like, standard Spider-Man figure. But my favorite Spider-Man figure, you probably saw his foot just a few minutes ago. He came in during the tail end of this video, which I'm going to cut this a little shorter than I had expected because we're almost at 2 hours. And there's some of these figures that I plan on doing reviews. But the emissary of hell himself, Toei Spider-Man, that is my all-time favorite. It sounds so stupid. This guy here it's probably why I like tokusatsu so much. When I was a little kid, I used to watch the 60s, Marvel Spider-Man. And it was kind of garbage, like, I'm not gonna lie. You could see all the effects around his belt. He had, like, metal, some kind of weird harness thing showing. And it sucked. It really sucked. It was boring, but I loved Spider-Man, so I'd watch it. I watched the Doctor Strange movie. I watched the Hulk TV show, like most of us did, because it was them for real. So I thought, oh my god, it's amazing. Then one day, I happened across this guy on the International Channel. He called a mech Leopardon, which I never understood why he has a leopard-themed or leopard-named mech. But it didn't matter, because this motherfucker was flying around. He drove a car, he had a spaceship, and the spaceship transformed into a mech. I was on board, because all you needed to get, 6-7-year-old me involved were spaceships, mechs, and, maybe even high-speed chases. But most of the time, it was like mecha and spaceships, and I was on board. And you got a superhero. You got one I know mixed up in all this. Shit. So I was there. It was cheesy, don't get me wrong. The show is not some work of art. When you go on YouTube, you see a lot of people passing off the cheesy things they like as if it's some kind of like triumph, It's the greatest ever. No, it was great for me when I was that old, or that young, because I have a specific set of likes. But it's bad. It's really bad. Well, I mean, the quality of what's being done is awesome, but the concept, it's as if they didn't even read the source material. He got his powers from aliens. He doesn't have web shooters per se. He has this weird tension brace type deal, which they captured in great detail, down to the part where on here, I'm going to see if we can get close up on it. On the actual brace itself, you see that? It says Spider-Man. Oh my god. And it opens up, and it's got a little display. I mean, say what you want about how cheesy this show was, but I mean, that's detail for that ass. Look at that. That is amazing. No pun intended. No shit, pun intended. The actual figure, they captured everything about this character. I mean, look at the mask. You could totally see that there's like a faceplate under the mask in the show, and there were giveaways like at his forehead and on the side of his face where that piece bubbles up. And they captured it perfectly. No issues here. That's the way it's supposed to look. I still love it. One of the cooler things about this show versus the American show is that when he would climb, they hid the wires better. And I mean, I guess because it's tokusatsu, they use wires more, whereas American productions did not use wires very often. So Spider-Man could climb, and it felt legit. You know what I'm saying? It didn't feel weird. It felt like he was really climbing, and he did karate or kung fu or something. He did martial arts. The moves would vary. That's why I'm saying karate or kung fu, because a lot of the stunt people were inspired by the kung fu craze of the 60s and the early 70s. No, it was the 60s. The ninja craze was the 70s into the 80s. But a lot of them, if you watch the old Toku shows like Mask Man and Five Man, which is one of my absolute favorites because it has one of my favorite episodes of all time called Get the Earth Drunk, where the Yellow Ranger fights villains using the drunken fist style, and she was a boss in the best kind of way, not the shit we hear now, but like a legit boss. She could actually fight. It was so nice. So nice. It was such like an unexpected jewel. I saw it and I was like, she's doing drunken style. And it wasn't exactly like what you've seen Jackie Chan do. It was a little different. But anyway, the martial artists in these shows were a lot better than the ones in the US shows, you know, because I don't know, it's like a different kind of approach to this stuff. They took it seriously back when it seemed like the people working on some of the American productions, they knew they were working on cheese, so they just did it. They did it for the paycheck, but not because they loved it. Whereas the people working on these shows, they love action. They don't care what kind of suits they have to wear in order to, you know, do the action. It's kind of like the difference that I always bring up between people who love this shit and people who are doing it for money because they found a way to capitalize on the popularity. If you love it, you'll review all the things. You'll find joy and awesomeness in some stuff, and if it's really bad, it's gonna show in your, you know, response to the really bad shit that you're reviewing or looking at. You know, I try to let you see that, and I've heard people pick up on the enthusiasm I have in my voice when I'm talking about certain figures and such, and you can also hear my disdain when a figure is poorly executed. You know what I mean? When it's just poorly, you know, all the things are missed. It's frustrating, especially when it's expensive. This is not the case. This figure is awesome. He comes with so much stuff. He comes with rope webs, a big old rope net, because they didn't even bother to make the thing look like a web per se, like the consistency of the actual string. They just used ropes and tied them up to look like a net, and they're like, hey, there's the web. It was very functional and not very on brand, but I mean, I guess in big picture it was on brand, but it was done in a very cheapo kind of way. But it was still awesome, man. Even his boots, right? There were two sets of boots in the show. There were these boots. These are the superhero boots where you can kind of see that they're like specially made for the show to go with the costume. And then there was another pair that he would wear where it was like these were socks, and he'd have those kung fu shoes, the like little slippers. He'd have those on. Man, I'm gonna show you it because they put it in a package, and I have it, and I will show you that it exists because it's fucking hilarious that they even bothered to include this as an accessory, you know, because you don't have to do that. And I mean this. It's not like when a toy has extra engineering and you hear fans going, they didn't have to do that. Oh, they had to engineer their shit or add that little extra detail to make people buy their figure, you know, or to make their figure stand out or stand apart from others. But check this out. You see that? It's like a Mary Jane. Look at that. Look at the top of the shoe. You see the strap going across the top? And then the little, like, moccasin type deal going on. I mean, like, why? But they did it. And I love him for it. This is a Figuarts. This figure was super expensive out of the blue. When I first saw this thing, I think it was like $40. So I was like, yay, I'm gonna get it, you know, $40. But then I kept getting sidetracked by other stuff. And then I finally got around to trying to get him, and he had shot up in price. I mean, some people are selling this figure for $200. I'm like, what the fuck? Where is all this love for this character coming from that most people don't even know existed? I think there's a handful of outlets that, upon hearing that many different Spider-Mans or Spider-Men would be in Across the Spider-Verse, people assumed he was going to be in the first volume, and that boosted his profile, and I think people started buying up the figure. This guy's been in my cart in a couple places for a long time. I had him in my cart, and I pre-ordered him in Ami Ami. Then I canceled the pre-order to get something else. It might have been Psylocke or one of the John Wicks or something. I can't remember what it was. Then he came out, and then I put him in the cart, and then, but long story short, I missed him a couple times, found him on one of my favorite sites, and I didn't pay an arm and a leg. I mean, he was expensive, but not like what people are typically paying for him. So I am over the moon that I finally have him to add to my collection. It's a Figuarts. It's my second Figuarts Spider-Man. He's a beautiful piece, so much detail, so much articulation. I mean, this is one of those ones that was specifically made for me and people like me, you know? And I like when that happens. And that's very rare these days, considering everybody loves everything these days, you know? So, geeked about this. Definitely going on the shelf. Let's talk about